Just as I predicted, nothing big happened for the Guardians at the trade deadline. Nothing big happened at all for the Guardians on deadline day. No interesting trades. They played a very normal game in which they didn't get a hit.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of Locked On Guardians. I want to thank you, brave souls who make Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever you get podcasts, including Google, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, all that good stuff. Thank you for making the trip to listen to our podcast, even on the toughest of days. And you can be thankful that today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Swing for the fences on Sleeper Picks, and you could win up to 100 times your money. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDON. You'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. All right, the elephant in the room, obviously, Guardians no hit on Tuesday by Framber Valdez. Josh Naylor out of the lineup with a sore side. Lineup overall just not good. Ironically, Oscar Gonzalez's walk saves them from a perfect game. Don't know if I'd ever thought I'd say that sentence ever. Didn't look good. It's probably a low point for the team as far as on the field is concerned. I think we all knew this Houston series wasn't going to be good. And I think it's unfortunate timing that this all happened this way because of the trade deadline. So it's going to look like the Guardians clubhouse just is dejected and really couldn't put an effort onto the field. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I feel like that's just some recency bias and the timing. I don't know if, just correlation equal causation. It definitely sounds like the clubhouse is a little subdued right now after those trades. I mean, Aaron Savali was a veteran pitcher out there. They were doing well with him, and he was pitching well, at least in terms, the way he was going. And Josh Bell was a well-liked player in that clubhouse. Let's get to that trade. I know the no-hitter. I mean, I don't think any of you want to rehash the no-hitter. If you watch the game, it was bad. The offense was bad. They were overmatched. They looked awful. Zero good approach against Framber Valdez. He was good. He threw a Maddox. I don't think there's a whole lot to rehash there. We could talk a little bit about Gavin Williams. We could talk about the Tyler Freeman thing, which we will. We'll talk about a little bit of that stuff. The real news of the day really was the Guardians being able to unload Josh Bell. This free agent signing didn't work for them. Josh Bell wasn't good. Mike Zunino wasn't good. The Guardians went, you talking about getting no hit, the Guardians went over against in free agency this offseason. Mike Zunino didn't make it to July, and August 1st is when Josh Bell left. So those two guys were supposed to inject some power into the offense. Mike Zunino coming in for defense and power, not necessarily contact like they usually like. And Josh Bell supposed to be another power guy in the middle of the order as well. They were missing last year. Neither one of those guys ever came close to producing what the Guardians had hoped they would do. So they're gone. What I will say is I will applaud the effort of trading Josh Bell today, getting out from that contract. Look, unless he goes absolutely nuclear over the last 8 weeks of the season, he is absolutely picking up that $16.5 million option next season. And after trading for Kyle Manzardo, and everyone's like, what's going to happen with Bell and Naylor? Where's he going to play? Do they have room at first base? Well, Josh Bell's gone. They acted very quickly. I thought there was a chance they could trade him in the offseason, depending on how things shook out. Kudos to them for making a creative deal. I will say, getting him out of here. Does it help in 2023? No, but Josh Bell wasn't helping them either. Josh Bell was not helping take this team where they wanted to go. And conversely, the Aaron Savali. Let me address that real quick too. For all the people who the last couple of days saying, ease up on the negativity. You're being too negative. They're a half game out. On one hand of things, they have survived with a poor offense most of the season without Shane Bieber for the last month, without Tristan McKenzie most of the year. That's hard to do. So there is that side of things. Absolutely. This rotation, Cal Quantrill has been out. Zach Plesac, who was here to start the year, is gone because of ineffectiveness. Speaking of bad things in the minor leagues, I'll touch on that before we end the show today too. There you go. You talk about not being negative. I don't know. Does it get any worse than this? As far as being negative or positive, the Guardians were only in the race as it pertains to the AL Central. Some people think that's good enough. And the funny thing is, in years past, I always hear, oh, it's not good enough to win the Central. They got to do well in the postseason. And now this year, it's like, well, they're in the race. If you looked outside the Midwest, this team wasn't going anywhere. The New York Yankees, who were basically like standby, passengers or spectators on deadline day, they had one middle relief trade. They're in last place in the AL East. Their record would be first place in the AL Central. This team is not going anywhere. This is a team that wasn't going to go anywhere in the playoffs that's currently constructed, at least not the way they're playing this year. And they may still get in the playoffs. The Minnesota Twins did absolutely nothing. They traded Jorge Lopez to Miami for Dylan Floro. That's the equivalent of nothing. They were also an audience member on trade deadline day. They did absolutely nothing. They were spectators. This division is going to come down to who's hot in the last week of the season, the way it looks like. The last 10 games might decide this division. And, no matter who gets in, they're not going to have good odds. Like, you can get hot for a 3-game series and anything can happen. Maybe Guardians pitching will be good enough by then. Or will be good enough to carry them at that point. I don't know. But the Guardians moved Savali at a high point in his value. They got a player in the organization they believe in, whether you like it or not. Stop looking at minor league batting average. If minor league batting average is how you were assessing these things, I can't help you. You're listening to the wrong show. Thank you for listening, but I can't say anything to help you because that is a poor way to look at things. Find something else, read something else, listen to what we have to say on the podcast if you would like to learn something other than AAA batting average evaluation. Again, kudos to the Guardians for, at least Chris Antonetti, for making this trade. Josh Bell will not be here next year now. Guaranteed. Somebody else can pick up his option. The Marlins are probably stuck with his player option next season. And who knows? If he goes there and he starts raking, then guess what? You look back at your coaching staff and you say, okay, how did we not help this guy hit if the Marlins did? We'll see. Time will tell. And this is another trade that you cannot judge tomorrow. If you sit here and tell me that you're mad at this trade because Khalil Watson's hitting 206 in high A this year, I can't help you. I can't help you see the trees through the forest. He's a 20-year-old kid who's going to turn 21 next April. We're going to talk more about him in the next segment, but they are not stuck with Josh Bell next year now. They got Gene Segura back, and they dumped him right away. They're going to pay him the $8.5 million he's owed the rest of the next year, and his $2 million buyout. The Guardians essentially saved something like, I don't know, $2 to $4 million, which, you know what, if you want to get mad that they're saving money, fine. I don't care. Get mad that they're saving money. I hope that money gets applied to anything to help this team win next year, to get better in some facet of the game that they didn't have this season, the way things have been going. The season's not even over. And like I said, they're in the JV division and they could get hot the last 10 games and get in, and we'll see. And they could all make everybody look stupid. I don't know. They certainly wouldn't be in the race anywhere else, to tell you the truth. Maybe the NL Central, but it's bleak because the Brewers and the Reds actually look pretty decent over there. They look like they're improving, not going backwards like the Guardians have. The Guardians, though, able to, again, not have to be stuck with Josh Bell next year. The way he's underperforming this year, they don't have to be stuck with him next year. They create room for Kyle Manzardo, who they like, who can come up next year and hopefully prove why they feel so strongly about him. That's all we have. That's what we have to wait for. And again, they save a little money. We'll see what they do with that money. Obviously, free agency is not good for them. They signed the bad free agents. They don't do well there. And they got Khalil Watson, who I think is an interesting prospect. This is a big swing. This is a lottery ticket play. To me, being able to get a prospect like Khalil Watson for Josh Bell, who's been horrible this year, and save money and clear space on your roster for a guy you really hope to contribute next year, that was a big part of that Savali, was the return for Savali, and you hope can I help your offense a lot next year? That accomplishes a lot of things. Will it work? Time will tell, but I think it accomplishes a lot of goals, and I applaud the creativity. That is a creative trade on a very crazy deadline day. I did not truly think that anybody out there was going to take Josh Bell's contract. If they did, I thought it would have to be over the offseason. I don't know what that was going to look like. And the fact that they were able to get a guy like Watson and not have to pay more money to take him on, I'm floored by it. Now, Watson could end up being absolutely nothing. It doesn't matter. So if that's the case, then the trade just ends up dumping Bell and creating room for Kyle Manzardo next year. And then that becomes a test of, okay, is Kyle Manzardo the guy they think that's going to help this offense in a big way? So again, if you want to get mad about these trades and grade them right now based on whatever, I'm sorry, you're going to have patience. I know everyone's not patient about winning. It's been, over 75 years or whatever at this point. But if you really want to take a true step, a true look at all the moves they just made on deadline day and all the things that are going on, it's going to have to wait another year. So you can keep listening to Locked On Guardians for the next year, and we can see how this works out. Or you can be angry and enjoy living life that way. I don't know. I'm interested in Khalil Watson in this move. Let's talk about him in the next segment here on Locked On Guardians. Want the chance to win more money with less picks? Head to Sleeper, where you can win 100 times the money on just 2 or more fantasy baseball picks. Do you think any Cleveland Guardian can hit a home run today off of the Astros? I don't, but maybe we'll see. If you want to make that bet on Sleeper, you absolutely should do that. If you think Sleeper is fantasy baseball, you can swing for the fences 100 times, up to 100 times payouts. All you have to do is choose 2 or more players that you like and select more or less on their stack categories, like home runs. Maybe you wanted to take the over on strikeouts for Framber Valdez Tuesday night. You would have been paid big if you took the over. Hits and more. Get your picks right, and you could win big. So use promo code Locked On, and you will get a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's use of terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. Guardians back at it on Wednesday in the afternoon. By the time you're listening to this, make sure you are listening to all the hometown broadcast action by searching Guardians on your Sirius XM app. I really like the Khalil Watson trade. I think this is an interesting buy on a prospect. You're kind of buying low here. Here's the background on Khalil Watson. So a lot of people felt like in the 2021 draft, he was one of maybe the 10 best players available in that draft. Great athlete, lots of talent. It's really, it's one of those guys who is a big risk in baseball. It's a absolute opposite of Kyle Manzardo in some ways. So Manzardo bet on some tools and the ability to hit. With Khalil Watson, it's a bet on the athlete. And those are 2 different approaches. Sometimes it's good to bet on the athlete, and when you have an athlete like that, you really have to bet on the person too and the work ethic. Watson is still young. He's a good-looking athlete, but here's why he was probably available. Strikeouts are an issue, so the Guardians going for a guy who doesn't make a lot of contact here. And there have been some makeup concerns in the past, some character concerns with Watson. He was suspended for a little bit last year due to an on-field incident where he didn't like a call on a check swing, got struck out, and he pointed the bat at an umpire and made like a gun motion. He was suspended for that. 19 years old last year. Not good, not the kind of example you certainly want from guys in your system. The Guardians did say they were encouraged with some of them, him coming along maturity-wise this year. We'll see. He hasn't been suspended for anything this year. We're going to find out about all that for sure. The Guardians usually do their homework on guys' character, and I guess they have to believe that he is past all that last year. The good side of Watson here is this. He is a guy who hits the ball hard when he does make contact. He has a lot of speed. He can stay at shortstop. He might be able to play center field. So for all the people who are screaming, why did we get another middle infielder? Watson could play short. He could play second. We'll see if he stays at short. He could move to center field. He has the athleticism. He has the speed. The arm might be better in center field too. We'll see what happens here. It's a long development path. He is not even Rule 5 eligible till December 2025. He doesn't turn 21 until next April. He's still in high A this year. The numbers haven't been fantastic. I will say he's walked a decent amount. He's got a 337 OBP, double-digit walk rate, 14.4%. We'll see how that translates as he moves up. If the Guardians feel like if he's really moved on from that instant, if he is maturing as a kid, and look, I never did anything that crazy at 19, that concerning at 19, but that's the worst thing on his record. So hopefully that was just a one-time incident and he's moved on from that. I'd hate to, for all of us to all be judged by something like that at age 19. It's an interesting bet though, for him being a good athlete and the upside there. I mean, if this is one of those things where, yes, if all the things go right, a lot of people feel like he could be a superstar. The ceiling's very high here. There's also a very good chance he doesn't get out of AA. Like, we don't know. For him to be available probably suggests something here that the Marlins definitely, things didn't go well there before. There was, the coaches claimed they had issues with him at points, and they just they gave up on him a little bit early. And maybe they felt like the strikeout issues were something that wasn't going to be overcome. And then they have also become an organization that has looked for more contact as well. That's why they got Josh Bell. I mean, Josh Bell, for all his struggles, doesn't strike out a ton for a guy who's supposed to hit for a lot of power, even though that power really never showed up this year in terms of fly balls and over the fence. And also their GM, Kim Ng, she did not draft Khalil Watson. So I don't think she did. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and double check that. But either way, they gave up on Khalil Watson. And I think the fact that Cleveland ended up bringing a guy like that in here who has star potential, it's a boomer bust type prospect. It really is. For a guy in Josh Bell that was not going to help you this year, wasn't helping you this year, you didn't want to be stuck with next year the way things were going. You wanted to create room for Kyle Manzardo to come up next year. To be able to move that contract and save a little bit of money. Again, the money, if you're saving money, you got to do something with it. You got to be productive with it. The Guardians' money was not productive with Josh Bell or Mike Zunino. That's not good. Cleveland really should evaluate their free agency process, to tell you the truth. I can't tell you the last time a major league free agent for them really worked out. I mean, Edwin and Yonder Alonso were probably the last good major league free agents they've signed. Other than that, I'm having a hard time really thinking about a major league free agent they brought in that performed as well as you would have expected. Edwin and for that 1 year, Yonder Alonso was fine. But those guys, kind of panned out for who they were and for the money. Other than that, I'm having a hard time remembering anybody else. Minor league deals, they certainly do well on. The Neil De Los Santoses, the Scott Kazmirs, those kind of things, they continue to do well on. But the Guardians don't have a boomer bust prospect in their system like Khalil Watson. So that's fun. It'll be fun to see what he can do in the minors. I know everyone's like, I don't care about the minors. I want to win right now. I get it. I can't tell you you're wrong. Like, this team won last year. They went to the playoffs. They were just a game away from getting to the ALCS. A lot of you were also screaming that Aaron Savali shouldn't have started that game. I'll remind you. A lot of you were saying they should have started Bieber on short rest instead of Savali. And now you're saying Savali is the guy that was supposed to take this team to the promised land this year, was supposed to be the race pitcher. And I know you're going to say, well, he was the only guy that was healthy, but sorry, Savali's never pitched over a couple hundred inning. Let's see, has he even pitched 100 innings in his career in a season? If he has, it hasn't been far over, and it's probably been once. So if you're going to get mad about all that, I mean, again, 124 innings in 2021. Outside of that, he has reached that. He's never even reached 100 innings. 2020 notwithstanding, but 77 last year, 97 the year before. The track record says what it is. If you want to get mad about that, that's fine. the Guardians, we'll see how they treat the rotation in the offseason and see who's still here and who's healthy to go with the rookies. Gonna have to find out. I think this team was not going anywhere this year. I don't think keeping Savali here wasn't going to help this team make the playoff. It wasn't going to really change how far this team went in the playoffs if they get in, is my thinking. And certainly Josh Bell was not working out either. The hard part is the clubhouse thing. This is a young team that had expectations this year based on what happened last year. They were too young to know better last year, I think. Everything went right for them last year, and they hadn't experienced this side of things yet. Well, now they've experienced the trading deadline where they didn't play well, and they had to trade guys. And again, I know you're going to say, well, they were in the race. I really don't know what you think the Guardians were going to go out and add that was going to take this team from being frustratingly inconsistent to a team that you felt was going to go somewhere in the postseason, especially in a seller's market. This is a seller's market. If you were going to go out there and get a big piece that changed hands, I didn't see a huge hitter change hands today. Did you? The prices were high. There was not really yes, were there bats they could have gotten, rental bats? The rental market was high. If you feel like paying the cost for one of those was worth it, I don't think one of those, I said Randall Grichuk was an interesting guy. Are you paying the cost of Randall Grichuk for a couple months just for a one series playoff win? Sorry. Don't think so. And it would be irresponsible for the Guardians to do it. I know kicking the can down the road, nobody likes to do that. Nobody wants to play for next year. It's a reasonable decision. I'm not going to say it's definitely going to work out because we don't know. We thought this team was going to win the division this year. You still might. I don't know. The Twins did nothing. I really can't believe the Twins did nothing, to tell you the truth. They should have done something, especially with the way the Guardians are going. But it's an interesting ad for Khalil Watson in a system, and they develop middle infield prospects fairly well. Not guys who swing and miss a lot, but he did cut his strikeout rate down in high A this year. He continues to improve. We'll see what happens. Again, he may not have to be stuck at shortstop. He may be able to move to center field. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, you clear space for Kyle Manzardo next year without having to be tied to Josh Bell for one more year. Hopefully they do something with the flexibility. Hopefully do something with the money saved. We'll see. There is going to be some roster movement on Wednesday because of the trade and because of some potential injuries. We're going to talk about that and just kind of looking ahead to the rest of the season. So stick with us here on Locked On Guardians. Guardians and Astros do battle on Wednesday. Make sure you're listening to all the action from the hometown broadcast on your SiriusXM app. Just search Guardians on the app. All right, well, we know that Tyler Freeman left Tuesday's game with a shoulder issue. Unfortunately, the same shoulder problem he's had surgery on twice. He looked like he was pulling it after an at-bat, and he actually looked like he might have tweaked it a little on a slide into KC last week as well. So hopefully he's okay. He did come out of the game. They do have to kind of do some further testing. Brian Rocchio was removed from the Columbus lineup not too long after that injury happened. So, you can easily point to that. By the time you're listening to this on Wednesday, perhaps Brian Rocchio was already up. But at that time, very easy to kind of connect those dots right there. The Guardians are needed to call somebody up anyway. They were short because of how the trade came together on Tuesday afternoon. Before the deadline, the Guardians were already a position player short. So good chance they may be calling two guys up. We'll see what happens there. The Guardians do not have any pitching lined up beyond the off day. Right now, it looks like Logan Allen is going to start Friday against the White Sox. The Guardians are off Thursday. And Saturday, Sunday, they do not have any pitchers listed for right now. So we're going to find out who is going to go Friday, Saturday. Friday would have been Aaron Savali's spot. As of right now, I will tell you Peyton Banfield is scheduled in AAA to go Saturday. He last went on Sunday, so potentially he's scheduled to go Saturday. So I would bet that Peyton Banfield's probably the guy going on Saturday night. I don't have Sunday starter for Columbus right now. I believe if you want to go by schedule, Tuesday starter was Zach Plesac. So nothing written in stone there. Obviously, if Plesac has to pitch on Sunday, we'll see. The Guardians do have an open roster space in terms of the 40-man roster, but Peyton Battenfield, they have 2 spots actually open right now. So Peyton Battenfield's on the 60. He'll probably come off for that. We'll see where else that goes. Those are about the moves right now, I would say. If you're looking for James Karinchak to come back and help this bullpen after the disaster it was on Monday, and look, I don't think the Guardians' April plans included Michael Kelly and Daniel Norris pitching high level, pitching important games in August against the Astros. I don't think that was the plan at all. Things have gone very sideways injury-wise, so it's unfortunate. Those guys were in that position. Possibly one of them goes to make room for Battenfield on Friday. Probably Norris, I would guess. We'll see. Guardians no hit, I guess I should mention again. Guardians are no hit on Tuesday. If you saw the game, like I said, not much to say. The approach was pretty poor. They walked once. That was Oscar Gonzalez of all people. They didn't hit the ball hard. They had like one opportunity for a hit. Wasn't pretty. If you want like any sort of silver lining, I'm not going to try to put lipstick on a pig, but Gavin Williams pitched, control was an issue, which I've been saying fastball command is definitely an issue for him. He walked 4 batters, made it through 5 innings on 93 pitches, held the Astros to 2 runs. I thought he pitched fairly well outside of the control issues. Fastball velocity was up. He was holding his velocity into 96, 97 late in the outing. In the past, he has been kind of dipping to like 92, 93. So he finally had a game where the fastball velocity was kind of sticking and actually went up late in the game. So that was good to see. And he trusted his breaking stuff a lot more. His curveball, 5 swings and misses out of the 9 swings the Astros took against it. Slider only got 1 swing and miss, but he landed a couple for strikes. So the percentage was a little better in terms of pitch distribution. So, you like to see that in terms of Williams. Xavier Curry was awesome out of the bullpen. The bullpen didn't implode. They held it close to see if the Guardians could do something late. And of course, the Guardians went down 7-8-9 with Arias, Straw, and Cam Gallagher, which, David Fry was in at first base because Josh Naylor was out with a pulled side muscle, and Cam Gallagher had to play. They didn't have to play. They gave Bo Naylor the night off against lefty, although I'm assuming Bo Naylor is going to play Wednesday based on that. Catchers don't play a day after the night game. And I know for all the upset about him not playing more, catchers never play a day after a night game, and I think that's always the way it's going to be, and that's fine. Especially, I know they're indoors in Houston, but it is hot down there. And you don't want to overdo it with him. But I would assume he'd play Wednesday. So Fry was already supposed to be in the lineup. And then you end up putting Gallagher in. No pinch hitter. You can't ask if they're going to pinch hit for somebody anymore. If you saw the post-game press conference on Monday, you figured out that asking if they're going to pinch hit is apparently a stupid question, is how they're addressing that these days in the locker room. Things look pretty tense, I have to say. I think the weight of expectations and frustrating this year, things that haven't gone well from them. If you saw my tweet the other night about base running, they were like a 13 something last year in FanGraphs base running statistic. And that's like stolen bases, but it's also tagging up, taking the extra base on singles, things like that. And they're at a 2.2 this year, which is like lower in the league this year. So they went from like 4th in the league in BSR to like middle of the pack, which is tough for a team that doesn't hit the ball with the fence. They have to rely on their base running. So a lot of things just didn't carry over from last year. I think it's getting to everybody. And I deleted a tweet that said, from the outside looking in, because I don't cover the team on a day-to-day basis in terms of in person, it seemed like this team kind of lacked a veteran presence to kind of talk to guys, especially this young group who, like I said before, didn't really know any better last year. Things just went really well right for them. Didn't have a Jason Giambi or Mike Napoli or a Jason Kipnis type in this locker room to, maybe have a closed door meeting without the manager, to a team players only meeting to say, this is what's happening. Here's what we need to do. This is what we expect. It's up to us to turn this thing around. And that's why the front office didn't make any trades to bolster the roster and instead tried to, make some additions for next year and create some flexibility. they didn't have that type. And I don't think Savali's not a talkative guy. So I don't think he's in the locker room making a whole bunch of speeches to guys. Josh Bell, definitely a veteran player who's been on some winning teams for sure, but wasn't playing well and hasn't played well really since the first half of last year. His second half in San Diego was abysmal. It was abysmal this year. And sometimes it's hard for those guys who are playing badly to have that talk in the locker room with guys like Jason Kipnis used to say early, late in his career, that there were times maybe he could have said something, but he didn't because he felt like it wasn't going to resonate with a guy who was struggling. He was trying to get his own stuff together. And I think Bell, it's possible that, he's also in the same boat there. So this team just didn't have a guy that could sit in the locker room and when things got tough. And I said that from the outside because I don't know for sure. I'm not, like I said, I'm not in the clubhouse. I'm just kind of listening to the reports and trying to analyze it that way. But those are the teams that won, like the 2013 Giambi team, with they certainly had a lot more veterans. The 2016 team was a little older as well, but they had those voices. And from the outside looking in, I don't know if the Guardians had those voices. So right now, you've got guys who are trying to establish their careers at the big league level. Some of them are struggling. Some of them are having good years. Some of them don't really have maybe that voice quite yet. Maybe they will develop that. They certainly need to develop that. And I know people will probably say, well, that's what Tito's supposed to do. If he's not a good in-game tactician, he's supposed to be good in the locker room. And I agree. And those are certainly issues. And I think we'll address those later in the week. I wanted to talk about trusting the Guardians process and the managers right now and all the stuff going on. But sometimes a players only meeting hits a little bit different than, dad yelling at you for whatever it is. Those things have to come from internally right now. And hopefully they'll find those voices at some point or somebody will step up. I mean, Jose Ramirez, I know he is the veteran, the best player on that team, but he's not a vocal leader. Some guys that's not natural for. And again, I'm saying this all from the outside. We don't really know what goes on behind closed doors, but it feels like from the outside looking in, it doesn't appear to come off the same way it did when you had Giambi and you had Napoli. You're not hearing those stories about that. So maybe they're not letting that get out, or maybe it's not happening. I don't know. And again, I know you'll say that's what Tito's supposed to be good at is the clubhouse thing. And I agree with that. But again, I think sometimes a players only meeting with the right voice hits a little bit different. It can't always be dad yelling at you. And I don't know what he's going to say after that no-hitter. It certainly feels like rock bottom for the Guardians this season, but they remain 2 games out of first place in the AL Central with, a pitching staff. We don't know where it's going right now. And some other young players are going to be coming up with Josh Bell being gone and some open roster spots to play with here. It's going to get even younger around here. So we'll see where things go. It certainly feels like, play for 2024, but there's still a division within reach. And again, the Twins did absolutely nothing. So we'll see how the rest of the season finishes out. We'll talk about the Astros game. We'll talk about more about the Guardians process this week and if you can trust that. And we'll talk about the minor leagues. We'll probably have a mailbag day on Friday as the Guardians have an off day on Thursday. So stick with Locked On Guardians the rest of the week. We'll have you covered. We'll continue to look at how this thing shapes up and how the Guardians can recover from this. So thank you all for listening, sharing, downloading, rating, subscribing, and leaving the comments. Please tell a friend, and go Guardians. Please get a hit and please score a run Wednesday.